Hey, what is going on, guys? This is DK back at you with another video here to break down the 14-game NBA slate. It's always a crazy one the night before Thanksgiving. If you guys are new, I cover content for daily fantasy sports and for prop sites like PrizePicks, Underdog, and Parlay Play. As you sponsor the video is Parlay Play. If you guys are not on it, it's a player prop site. They have a ton of different sports. Basically, you're building out slips of player props. You can up to 75x your money as well. If you guys do want to give it a try, you can use the link down below. Or the code DKDFS for a $100 deposit match bonus. If you do click that link and deposit, it helps support the channel. And if you guys look for more content, you go check my Patreon, DFS, or for prop stuff. Now, recapping tonight, so prop stuff went well, but I had one of the worst beats I've had in a while. So we hit both our YouTube plays, went 4-1 in our PrizePicks normal plays, and then was looking like it was going to go 2-1 in my taco pairs. And D'Angelo Russell, the Lakers are up by 35, and he comes back in midway through the fourth and gets 2 assists to chalk it. I'm just like, I can't believe my eyes, man. I have Keontae George over. Why couldn't he come back? No, I have the under and D'Lo. You better believe he's coming back in garbage time. It's like, kidding me? Are you kidding me? Also, I did the I wore the hoodie for the first time I did on my Patreon stream, and I would not shut up about how much I loved Halliburton at low ownership. So maybe it's good luck. I'm gonna keep the hoodie on for this video. I'm like, why not? Also, it's really late at night. I'm just like, whatever. We're gonna rock the hoodie for this video. But let's recap the DFS lineup. And this was just so tilting, man. 76ers Cavs, a game that I have no exposure to. Well, I have Craig Porter, but again, he's not playing in crunch time. You better. How about 5 extra minutes? Okay, talk Cavs. Okay, 5 more minutes for them, right? But no, I was that overtime cost me a ton of money. And then there's 2 things, right? I was all over unowned Halliburton. We ended up being 24% this tournament. He was about 15% low stakes, but I would not shut up about Halliburton. It was all day long. If you're a Patreon member, you know I just did not understand why he was getting no ownership. So that was just absolute smash. 80 fancy points. I think he had like 75 through 3. I don't think he did much in the fourth. And then Jakob Poeltl is my other play that I really liked at no ownership. Looking at the first quarter, Poeltl, 8 points, 8 boards, 1 assist. I'm thinking, yes, Poeltl is absolutely breaking the slate. Out 2 quick ones. Barely plays the rest of the game. Massive blowout, too. Random massive blowout to punish the Poeltl Sharks. He is absolutely smashing, just barely plays the rest of the game. Okay. Oh, yeah. And then I have, it's Sexton THT. I think, okay, those 2 are similar plays. I'm like, I prefer Sexton because he's lower owned, random massive blowout, and it's THT that plays with the scrubs in garbage time. It's incredible. It is absolutely incredible how bad I run on a day in, day out basis. But yeah, still won 400 overall. Still, I would have won money if I was able to play on PrizePicks Underdog, but I was not. It was a good day over there, even with that just absolutely horrific hook on D'Lo. But yeah, so that's the recap there. I can't tilt too long because we have 14 games to talk about, so just get right into it. Washington, Charlotte. 2 bad teams going up against each other. High total game. Main guys for Washington are firmly in play here. Kuzma 8.3, Poole 6.3K. Kuzma a bit of a higher floor. He's been a little bit more consistent. Definitely been more consistent than Poole this year. Poole's been very up and down, more so down. He had a solid game last game, 30 real-life points, only 34 fantasy points. But both the main Washington guys are viable. Denny at 5.6K feels priced about right. A reasonable option in the mid-range. Tyus Jones minutes have not been amazing, even in competitive games. So that is a downside, but he's still playable. Koulibaly, 4.8K prices, probably about right on him too. Gafford at 4.2 does feel a little bit too cheap. If he can stay out of foul trouble. 28 and 29 minutes over the last couple games. So I do have some interest in a 4.2K Gafford. I don't think it's necessary to get to guys like Kispert, or Gallinari, or Shamet. Talk about Charlotte. Obviously, I'm high on LaMelo Ball. I've been high on him a lot recently. He's been low owned. He's low owned against the Knicks, low owned against the Celtics. So I was high on him in both his contrarian plays. I think it'll be a bit more popular here in a matchup against the Wizards. But, I mean, he's just playing huge minutes in competitive games. You should see around high 30s minutes to LaMelo. So he looks good. Also, Miles Bridges is back, and he played 40 minutes in regulation. So it looks like he's going to play huge minutes at 7.2K. I think he's a pretty safe play. Mark Williams' production's, up and down, but the ceiling does go up a bit without Nick Richards, so I do like his upside, but again, a guy that is very foul prone. Hayward, Washington, Miller, more secondary plays. Don't think it's necessary to get to anyone else. Denver and Orlando, well, maybe Jokic comes out angry after getting ejected last game, but yeah, I mean, Jokic still is underpriced here at 12.5. It's insane. He's averaging like 75 points a game in competitive games, so still like Jokic here at the top. Jamal Murray is still out here, so Gordon and MPJ get a bit of usage bump. They also have been playing more minutes. They're reasonable options. Reggie Jackson, kind of indifferent on him. He had a big game last game, but again, you had the Jokic ejection, so got to be a little bit careful there. KCP's role never really changes. I don't think it's necessary to get to the bench guys here for Denver. Talk about Orlando. Orlando, not a lot standing out here. I think Banchero and Franz are fine. Jalen Suggs is a guy that's been winning me a lot of money in the prop market. Him and Cole Anthony. If Markelle Fultz is out, once again, the ceiling does go up on them. So like the upside on both Anthony and Suggs. Don't really think I'm going to get to the bigs or Isaac or any of the value here for Orlando. So let's talk about Milwaukee and Boston. This should be a great real-life game. Dame probable, no Crowder. Marshawn Beauchamp is probable as well, so that's one more body in the rotation. As far as the main guys for a go from Milwaukee, it's kind of Giannis for me, and that's about it, 11-4. I do like his ceiling quite a bit. Dame at 9-1. Lopez, I mean, he's had a couple big games where he's blocked like 7 shots. We can't expect that every single game. Bobby Portis, Middleton, there's just not a ton else that stands out. Beasley and Content should lose a little bit of run with Marshawn Beauchamp back. Boston, fully healthy team. Not much that stands out here. Like, I'm not going to say no to anyone, but it's hard for me to prioritize these guys when they are fully healthy. So kind of just a pass right now for me for Boston. Brooklyn and Atlanta. So good matchup here for the Nets. You got Mikal Bridges 8K. Reasonable tournament option. The floor has been relatively low on him, though, surprisingly this year. Dinwiddie 6.8K. You should see 30 plus minutes in a competitive game. Again, this is a game with a high total. So I do like his upside. Claxton, if he plays normal minutes, if he plays like around 30 minutes, I like him a lot. I played him at no ownership against Miami. He was absolutely smashing. They closed with Trenton Watford for absolutely no reason in a competitive game. I like the ceiling on Claxton. The minutes have been a little bit shaky. Cam Johnson, 5'7", Lonnie Walker, 5'9". I don't think it's necessary to get to like the 3-and-D guys. I mean, Day'Ron Sharp's minutes are all over the place too. He is a good point per minute guy, but I just have no idea how many minutes he's going to play. Talk about Atlanta. So Atlanta was a team, obviously, I was very high on. The field was as well. I mean, they all just absolutely smashed. Not as good of a spot here for the Hawks, but still, the two guards have a ceiling with Trey and DeJounte. I do like Jalen Johnson, 6'4". His minutes have been pretty solid of late, 30 plus of the last 4. Capella, Okongwu, they're going to split the center position. I think factoring in salary, I might slightly prefer Capella now since Okongwu's at 5K. But Donovan had a big game scoring. You got the wings that look pretty similar. Toronto and Indiana, really good spot here for the Raptors. Scotty Barnes, 8.6K. Again, there's been a lot of blowouts recently for Orlando. This game, massive blowout. This game, massive blowout. I believe this game was a blowout too, I want to say. In a competitive game, I do think you'll probably see mid to high 30s minutes for Scotty Barnes. This is a really good spot, so I think a nice bounce back opportunity for both him and Siakam here. Again, really like the match against the Pacers, who play super fast. Schroeder's reasonable in the mid-range. Pirtle, yeah, I mean, if you give him the minutes, he's going to be really solid, but only played 23 minutes last game, which really tilts me again. He was smashing in the first quarter and then just barely played the rest of the game. OG, Trent, secondary plays. My boy Boucher, I'll mention him because he's a good point per minute guy, but I don't think it will be necessary to go to him. Also, his minutes not necessarily secure with a fully healthy team. Talking to the Pacers, well, Halliburton was a guy that I was just not fading tonight, and he broke the slate. 80 fantasy points for him. Not as good of a spot here, but Halliburton is just so good. He is so underrated. I'm still fine going to Halliburton there. Turner, 6.9K. I mean, if he stays out of foul trouble, does have a ceiling. Jalen Smith was smashing, and then they went to Isaiah Jackson kind of out of nowhere. That was weird. The wings all look pretty similar. I will say they started Buddy Hield and Naismith last game. You saw 31 minutes for Buddy Hield. So Buddy Hield did get a minutes bump. And Naismith outplayed 25 minutes. So if they go with that starting lineup again, then I think Hield and Naismith are both interesting plays. If Nembhard, he was out. If he's out again, McConnell will play the backup point. Only played 14 minutes, but there has been games where McConnell's pushed for 20 minutes as the backup point guard. Miami and Cleveland, Bam and Jimmy both look pretty similar here. 8.9K for Bam, 8K for Jimmy, both reasonable options. Don't love the matchup here. Duncan has been playing really well, but feels priced about right. I'll mention Jaquez. He had a really nice bounce back game. I liked him as a bounce back in tournaments. He smashed at no ownership. He's just a really big part of his rotation. I think you can project Jaquez for around 30 minutes. No issue if you want to go to him. Lowry, minutes have been ticking down, but still a reasonable value. I don't think it's necessary to get to Highsmith or Martin. Now, Kevin Love, is out. So I think you'll get Thomas Bryant playing the backup 5. A min-price Thomas Bryant, if he does get the backup 5 minutes, like if you give him like 15 minutes, I actually think is a little bit interesting. Now, there's no guarantee of that. They could try to go small ball with like Highsmith or someone like that. But if Thomas Bryant does get the backup 5 run at the flat min price, I do think he's interesting. Talking through Cleveland, so the guys that I were high on for Cleveland, once LeVert got ruled out too, were just the guards. Garland, Strus, and Craig Porter Jr. I think they all smashed. Again, I sadly did not click any of them in tournaments because I had to stack the Indiana game, but yeah, they all smashed. Craig Porter Jr. has been playing really well off the bench. I will say, I think he was a bit overowned in my tournament, about 70%, but yeah, the Summer League legend Craig Porter has been playing extremely well. If there's no Mitchell, LeVert, and Okoro again, then Craig Porter Jr. becomes a solid value. Strus and Garland obviously get the bump. Mobley and Jared Allen should play pretty solid minutes. They're both reasonable plays. Dean Wade will start most likely, but it's Dean Wade again. 31 minutes, 18 fantasy points on a 14-game slate. I don't think I can stomach clicking Dean Wade. Clippers and Spurs. Clippers running pretty tight rotations in competitive games. Last game was a massive blowout. All the stars look pretty similar here. Paul George, Kawhi, Harden, Westbrook. Westbrook is the cheapest coming out the bench, but sub 6K Westbrook, if you give him like close to 30 minutes, that is interesting. Zubac, if you give him close to 30 minutes, I do think he's underpriced. Again, there still is no Plumlee. So I do like the ceiling here on Zubac. Paul's prices come up. Mann's prices come up a bit, but there's still big parts of the rotation. Daniel Tice should get the backup 5 run. He had a good game last game, but again, a lot of that was in garbage time. Talking through the Spurs, so nothing really standing out to me. Wembanyama was always fine for tournaments. Vassell's questionable. If he plays, there's really just not much here. Even if he misses, I don't think there's a ton that stands out to me from the Spurs. So let's talk about Chicago and Oklahoma City. Chicago, Levine's probable. Caruso is probable as well. I just have a hard time clicking any of the main Bulls. I mean, I was going to play one on a 14-game slate, you know what I'm going to say, right? If I was going to play one, it would be whichever one's the lowest owned, of Vooch, Levine, DeRozan, but kind of a tough time going there. Caruso, 4.8K, price about right. White's price is right. Drummond will be productive in the midst as he plays. He's always a fine tournament play. If you get the game where Vooch gets in foul trouble, Drummond could smash. But let's talk about Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City, SGA, 9.7K feels too cheap for him. There's been a lot of blowouts recently for the Thunder. This game was a massive blowout. This game a massive blowout. But he's playing like high 30s minutes in competitive games. A sub 10K price point makes SGA kind of stand out. Shot at 7.5, same thing. Fine contrarian spend up, but I prefer SGA. No Jalen Williams. Giddey, 7K. Don't think probably not going to go there. Dort, I'll pass. They started Case and Wallace last game with Jalen Williams out. He didn't do much. Isaiah Joe, 4.6K. In a competitive game, I would think he would play around low 20s minutes, but the price is up on him. Kenrich Williams also probably gets a slight minutes bump in a competitive game without Jalen Williams. But the Thunder, we know Dagnall likes running deep rotations. Sacramento, New Orleans. This game cost me infinite money last slate. Again, I got lucky. I faded Chalk Jokic, who got ejected. I faded Chalk Hauser. I was looking great. I had unowned Zion, random massive blowout, right? Just no chance they're playing any close normal minutes. So all of them subbed midway through the third. Just so tilted. But yeah, Sabonis, Fox, it's a good matchup. I don't think they're going to lay an egg here like they did in the second half. So good bounce back spots here for Fox and Sabonis. Murray is questionable. A lot of guys questionable here for the Kings. Murray, Duarte, Lyles, Vescanev. If they all miss, then you probably get Kessler Edwards in the starting lineup. At the flat min price, he'd be in consideration, but not a great point per minute guy. You'd probably see more run for guys like Barnes and Herter. Monk might see a minutes bump off the bench as well. McGee, if Trey Lyles is out too, I think McGee will get all the backup 5 run. He's been playing really well in his limited minutes. We know he's a good point per minute guy. Let's talk about New Orleans. So again, it was just so tilting. I was all over Zion at low ownership, and it's just a massive blowout. Just so mad about that. But yeah, I like the ceiling on Ingram. I like the ceiling on Zion. JV, minutes have been ticking up a bit for him in competitive games. We know he's a good point per minute guy, so always in play for me for tournaments. Herb Jones feels priced about right. Daniels and Hawkins are reasonable plays. Daniels kind of had a down game, but still would expect him to play 30-plus minutes in competitive game. Alvarado in his first game back, they took it easy on his minutes. I was expecting around 15. He played 15. Philadelphia, Minnesota. So Embiid, 11.5K. I like the ceiling on him. I took his over fantasy score tonight. It worked out in a big way. Hit it over even before overtime, but always like the ceiling on Embiid. My 3 takes tonight, my 3 contrarian spin ups that I loved. Halliburton was number 1, then it was Embiid, and then it was Anthony Davis. And Anthony Davis was smashing massive blowout to punish the Anthony Davis Shark. So if you played Anthony Davis, you did not deserve that punishment. He was such a good GPP play and just a massive blowout to punish you. But yeah, Maxey 9K always has a ceiling. Melton and Harris, I think, are pretty safe. The price has come up a bit, though, and Tobias is 7.5. I don't love it. I think I would lean Melton over Tobias if I had to pick between those two. I don't think it's necessary to get to like Batum or Covington or any of the 3 and D guys. Minnesota, no McDaniel should get my boy NAW in the starting lineup. Ant 8.5, Karl Towns 8.3K. Does feel a little bit too cheap for both. I think I prefer Anthony Edwards to Cat, factoring in the salary. Gobert 6.6K, should see low 30s minutes, just kind of there for me. Conley's a secondary play, as is Slow-Mo, as is Naz Reid. But Naz Reid 3.9K, he's a good point per minute guy. He's been a little bit quiet of late, but if you give him close to 20 minutes at this price point, that does stand out as a good value to me. And then NAW, I think he starts. He played 33 minutes last game. He's not going to be super productive with this offensive unit, but if you give him close to 30 minutes at sub 4K, he's going to stand out as a pretty good value. Memphis and Houston. So Memphis, pretty short-handed. No Smart, no Tillman, no Kennard. You should get the starting lineup of Bane, Triple J, Aldama, Biyombo. And the fifth starter could go a lot of different ways. Last game, they started Conchard at the point. They do have D Rose back, so they could start him. I guess they could start Gilliard again if they wanted to. So we'll keep an eye on it. But as far as Bane and Triple J go, I like the ceiling on both. I think Bane's a bit safer. Just because Jaren is super foul prone, right? You guys know that. Aldama is just playing absolutely out of his mind recently. I mean, he's averaging like 50 fantasy points a game over the last 3 games. I played him a couple times here at low ownership, and he was just doing nothing. I want to say I want to play him here or here, and he's did nothing. And then finally didn't click him here, and just 50 fantasy points a game for Aldama for absolutely no reason. But yeah, he's a guy that should play big minutes. Biyombo also got dealt with some foul trouble, but without Tillman, I would expect Biyombo to play good minutes, make him a decent bounce back candidate. And the value plays are all interesting. Again, guys like Gilliard, Zaire Williams, Conchar, Roddy Rose all in play. I want to see what the starting lineup is. I think whoever starts to the point would be a solid value, but Derrick Rose, either way, should get 15 to 20 minutes. He'll be relatively productive. I think he's an interesting value. Talking about Houston, a guy, I just love this, man. There's nothing I love more than seeing my boys Sabonis and Şengün absolutely smash night in and night out. I mean, you guys know, if you've been watching my content over the years, how high I've been. I've been high in Şengün since he's come in. His first Summer League game, but all over Şengün. I just love him seeing absolutely smashing every night. 8.2K, I still like him here. He's playing big minutes in competitive games. Van Fleet is also just playing huge minutes in competitive games. They both look good. The other starters, reasonable, Green, Jabari Smith, and Brooks. Value-wise, Eason, Tate are playable, but not priorities for me. Utah, Portland, 2 bad teams going up against each other. This is an interesting one. I think there's some good plays here. Marketing, Clarkson, massive blowout tonight. Wouldn't read too much into it. They should play big minutes in competitive game. Collins without Kessler should see low 30s minutes. I think he's a relatively safe play. Keontae George, again, has been struggling with his shot. 3 of 11, 2 of 11, 2 of 12. I mean, if you get a game where he has a decent shooting game, he is, doing pretty well at the peripheral. So I still have some interest in my boy Keontae. THT feels a little bit pricey. I think I'd rather get to Sexton if I was going to play one of those, good point per minute guards out the bench. Agbaji's fine. That's about it for the Jazz. Let's talk about Portland. So Portland, you had Brogdon surprisingly come back. It'll be interesting to see if he plays in a back-to-back or not. My guess is they probably sit him. I mean, there's just no reason to push Brogdon here. So if he sits, then, all the main guys, Grant, Sharp, Ayton, Mays will look good. This is a game that you would think the Blazers could keep competitive. So the main Blazers look good. I mean, I talked about in the Patreon stream how all the Blazers are projecting for sub 1% ownership. And I said, they're too low owned for their chance of success. Like if they can keep it somewhat competitive, there's going to be at least one guy in one of the main Blazers absolutely smashed. And I want to say it was either Ayton or Grant that had a really good game tonight, even in a blowout. So yeah, Grant, Sharp, Ayton, Mays all look good. Again, I am assuming Brogdon sits here in a back-to-back. Mara's reasonable as value play. If you're playing for like a massive blowout again, you can consider some guys, but the issue is like they still are relatively deep on the bench. So like you could like try to play do up Breathe, but again, last couple of games, Moses Brown has been in at the end of the game. Like Jabari Walker, not even a guarantee that he closes in a blowout. So that is the issue, trying to play for the blowout with those Blazers bench guys. Golden State, Phoenix, still no Draymond. Gary Payton is questionable. Keep an eye on that. As far as the main guys go, Steph Curry, 9.3K, always like a ceiling in tournaments. Chris Paul has played pretty well, playing alongside Steph. 7.2K in a revenge game narrative. I think he makes for a decent point per dollar play. Klay Thompson, that price is cheap. Shooting a little bit better of late, so he's playable for tournaments. Wiggins been playing a little bit better of late as well, as minutes have ticked up. Looney, if he stays out of foul trouble, I think plays high 20s minutes, an okay play, but it's not a ton. Bench guys, Podziemski, Kuminga, Saric, Payton if he's back, just too deep of a rotation. Talking about the Suns, so Beal's still out. Booker and KD, I like the ceiling on both. I think if there's no longer a limit on Devin Booker, I prefer him point per hour to KD. But again, both have been playing pretty well, KD especially. My boy Nurkic, 6.5K. The minutes have not been amazing on him. I mean, he did play 29, though. Again, when you get games where he sees extended minutes, Nurkic can smash. So if you think Nurkic plays close to 30 minutes, you're going to want to have a lot of interest in him. Gordon, Allen, more secondary plays. Eubanks backing up Nurkic. Probably it for me for Phoenix. And the last game, I know has been a lot of talk for me, Dallas and the Lakers. Luka, Kyrie, factoring in salary, I think I prefer Kyrie to Luka. Now, Kyrie obviously has lower floor, but 8.4K for him against the Lakers does feel too cheap. I don't think I can stomach just trying to target these wings for Dallas, like Hardaway, Grant Williams, Derek Jones, Josh Green. Lively, if he stays out of foul trouble, has a ceiling, but that's a big if. And finally, the Lakers. So, I think everyone will be available here. Reddish, what happened to him? It was groin soreness. So, he's out. Who did the Lakers... Oh, I think they started Max Christie in his place. So I think I want to say I saw that on Underdog. But yeah, AD, LeBron. I prefer AD to LeBron. Pick him between the two. D'Lo feels a little pricey. Reeves is fine off the bench. Rui at 4.8K might pay a little bit more without Reddish. Yeah, if they start Max Christie at the flat min price, then I think he's a little bit interesting. Played 25 minutes at 23 fancy points. If they start him for Reddish, I think he's a viable punt play. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for the video. As always, if you do enjoy, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'll try to get a prize picks video up after this as well. But thanks again for watching. Let's try to get 100 likes on this video, and we'll see you all in the next one.